Hey there, Sagittarius. Welcome to your reading for the week of August 18th. This week you have this triangle card. It says choices and indecision. You have this old woman. It says sadness and female on it. So you might have a choice to make at this time. I'm not so sure that you're going to be sad about it. We'll see. But yeah, it looks pretty good. I mean, there might be a little sadness. You have the Eight of Cups here. Personally, like I always think of the Eight of Cups as a good card. And actually, now that I think about it, you had this card with me recently because I remember saying to you, Sagittarius, that it's definitely not a time for Sagittarius to settle. And the Eight of Cups is a card that says, do not settle. He is basically walking away from these 8 cups. And the whole point of the card is that those 8 cups, they do provide him with something. So he is walking away from something that is giving him or bringing him a result in life, but it's just not right. He would be settling if he stayed in the situation. So, I think for a lot of you that's the time we're in, obviously. I mean, like your past 2 readings maybe, I think, have said basically the same thing. They've basically said, hey, it's time to make sure that you're not settling for less than you deserve, and all that other good stuff, Sag. So, yeah, I would definitely be, making sure that you're not settling. You have the 4 Wands, the Judgment card, and the 8 of Cups. Again, this to me very simply would say that there's something that you want to set yourself free from. Now, there is a little bit of love here in this reading. So, sure, the 4 of Wands can, of course, represent marriage and a commitment. And there definitely could be a commitment. But, with the Judgment card and the 8 of Cups, the 4 of Wands is a card of freedom, and I think sometimes people forget that. We have to cross through this threshold here. It's almost like a finish line right here to get to the other side, and that's where we will have the celebration. That's where we will have good things. But usually the 4 of Wands comes up when we're completing something or we're getting to the end of something and we're ready for kind of like the next step. You have the Chariot and the 6 of Swords here as well, going this way. So it is almost like, this part of the reading is saying, you're ready for your next step. You're ready for the next step is kind of what I feel here, Sag, and obviously that would be good. You have the Judgment card. Judgment can be a wake-up call, of course. It can represent answering the call as well. That's kind of more what I feel for you, Sagittarius, is that it's like you are feeling pulled towards something, I feel intuitively, and this could be anything in your life. Obviously it's going to be something that brings in success with the Chariot right next to it, but, I kind of feel it's saying, like, you have to answer that call. It's like you're feeling pulled towards something for a reason. These people are standing in these coffins. The coffin represents their old life. Outside the coffin is their new life. And they have to completely step into their new life to be successful, right? And so I definitely feel that for you, where it's like time for you to step into that new life, or to, you know what I mean? It's time to take that risk to step into your new life or something. You have the 8 of Cups. 8 of Cups can be walking away from things that no longer serve you. So I feel a lot of you could be walking away from things that are just like getting in the way. And, I do think you're making a lot of cuts here. I feel that what Sagittarius needs to do is be careful of the noise, It's like there could, I just feel that intuitively, where it's like there might be things that aren't right in your life. It could even be something that's toxic as well. Could even be a toxic person. Could be a toxic family member, right? Whenever we choose not to surround ourselves with those people, usually other family members might be like, hey, why are you avoiding your brother? Or whatever, right? But there might be a good reason for it, right? And so I think this is saying that you need to block out the noise on something. I also feel like, again, that you're being called in a direction. And again, he is just choosing not to settle on these 8 cups. Also, this card is the only card in the tarot that has an eclipse on it. We have 2 eclipses coming up in September. Everybody has been getting the 8 of Cups. So, it could just be eclipse energy, right? Just that simple. With the 4 Wands, you have the 9 of Cups. You have the 9 of Cups twice, and you also have this card at the end, which says New Moon and Sag, luck is on your side, which you have been getting with me a lot. So could be a very lucky time for you. The trick with the 9 of Cups and the Chariot is to be in alignment with what you want. So both of these cards, he has these stars right here, moons right here, which represents as above, so below. 9 of Cups, all we have to do to manifest with the 9 of Cups is match the energy of what we want. So we have to become the thing that we want to be before we can be it, basically. And I think doing that will probably lead to success the fastest. With the Judgment card, you have the King of Cups. Could be love coming in for you as well. Again, you do have a little bit of love here. I'm pretty sure you've been getting the King of Cups with me also. And the King of Cups doesn't have to be a water sign. It could just be a person who's very emotionally stable, a person who has a good handle on their emotions and, all that other stuff. And so, this could just be that. I also feel that the King of Cups, he's sitting in these choppy waters, but he is perfectly fine. His face, he is not concerned about his situation. And, the whole point of the card is that he has explored his emotions to a very deep level, and now he understands how he feels. The other part of the King of Cups is to not drown in your emotions. And the other part of this reading is the Eight of Cups. It's like these two cards together, King of Cups, Eight of Cups, are kind of saying to me that you already know your feelings on a situation that you are walking away from. It's like, it's like you already know the answer. That's kind of the feeling I get, even with that Judgment card. It's like sometimes I think we think that we don't know what we should do, but we actually do. And that's kind of the feeling I get here. With the Eight of Cups, you have the Two of Pentacles. Two of Pentacles, like work hard, play hard. I do think it's a very busy time for fire signs in general. So a lot of you could just be really, putting in the work, making things happen, doing work, all that other good stuff. So I don't know, doesn't really surprise me. Next, in the area of what's coming in for you, you have this Fortune card. It says, when fortune appears in your life, limitations disappear. As you sit back and watch your dreams manifest before your eyes, you are filled with a profound sense of gratitude and wonder. You have this conditioning card. It says, have you accepted the illusory limits placed upon you by your upbringing and social conditioning? Yes, I think that this is basically saying you could have a fortune, or you could be creating your fortunes right now, Sag, but you have to break free from those mental blocks. The other thing is, a big part, I do want to say this. A big part of this reading basically says you're probably more ready than you think. Judgment, Hermit, Chariot. Hermit is more ready than he thinks because he's been through a dark night of the soul. He's shining that lantern, his inner light, out in front of him, but he's still at the top of the mountain. He needs to kind of like come out of isolation, and he needs to shine his light all over the place. So I feel like for you to, build your fortunes here, Sag, over the next, however many years it takes, you're going to have to do things like, expose yourself, but, in a good way, which would mean, like doing things like, taking the lead on projects, putting your work on display, showing off, being a living example. All those things that I've always talked to you about is what I would be doing here. You have the Hermit, the Chariot, and the Hangman. Yeah, it's definitely time. It's time for you to shine a light on what your knowledge. Everything about the Hermit represents knowledge and wisdom. He's got the gray cloak, the gray beard. He looks older. It's all knowledge and wisdom. But again, he's standing at the top of this mountain, and the story of the card is that his feet might be frozen at the top of this mountain. And so he needs to come down from the mountain and kind of like show the world what he's made of, or, he kind of needs to show his skill. And that's kind of like what I feel for you. But, again, I think that you will probably do this by being a living example. And again, pretty much everyone's doing this because of Pluto and Aquarius. Pluto and Aquarius, I believe, wants us to be a living example, wants us to, show our skills and, kind of like show other people how it's done. But that's not the reason you're doing it, right? Being an example, you don't tell anyone what you're doing. You just do it. And then people see you doing whatever you're doing and they feel inspired, right? And so, but I kind of feel that for you, where it's like you could be doing some things that at first, like I feel resistance here. I want to back up a little bit here, Sag, and just say that I think that you could be feeling resistance, but what you're actually feeling is other people's resistance, right? Sometimes I think this happens where we have an idea for a business or we have an idea for something we want to do. We tell people about it. They tell us, without telling us, they tell us that they think it's a bad idea, but really it's because they can't see themselves doing it. There's something like that going on in your reading where it's like the resistance you feel is not yours. I think maybe you need to realize that here, Sag. You have the Chariot because there's going to be a victory. The Chariot is all about taking control. The Chariot is the card of hard control in the tarot. We really have to take control of the reins and make things happen with the Chariot. We have to be the one to do that, right? We have to be the ones that, kind of like take control and make things happen basically with this card. So, it is also a card of as above, so below. So I think a lot of you need to pay attention to that as above, so below energy and matching energy as well. But what I would say is, I think this is definitely about you taking control of your reality. You have the Hangman. The Hangman can be about seeing things from a new perspective. So the Hangman is hanging from the tree of knowledge and wisdom, and his head is glowing. Makes a lot of sense, I would say, Sagittarius, because I'm sure you're sick and tired of hearing me say this, but Uranus in Gemini, right? Even though this is Pisces, yes, I understand that. This is also, I think that, no, this doesn't represent Uranus and Gemini, but I think right now it does. I think this is a very similar energy. It's like being able to see both sides of an issue, being able to find different approaches to things that you're working on or dealing with. I think that's going to be important as well. I also feel like some of you, kind of a random message. One thing I will say is I don't read reversals, but I read energy, basically. And when the Hangman is in reverse, most people consider this to be him moving forward. So it's not always a bad thing when he's in reverse. But just intuitively, sometimes I feel that when he's in reverse, that it kind of looks like he's dancing. It kind of looks like he's putting on a show for, I don't know, people or, situations in his life. I do feel with this, I kind of feel that with this Eight of Cups, where it's like some of you are maybe walking away from a show that you've been putting on. I'm not calling you fake or anything like that, Sagittarius. It's just sometimes I think we get caught up in like jobs or, relationships with people in our life, and it feels like we're putting on a show to be with that person or to be around that job or whatever it is. And I feel like you're done. That's maybe what you're walking away from, is something that feels like that. With the Hermit, you have the Three of Cups. Yeah, it's time to find your tribe. I'm pretty sure I said this to you in your last reading as well. Definitely, I think one of the best things Sag can do right now is find a group of people, right? And these are going to be people that you resonate with, people who really support your vision in life. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's going to take time, and it never is easy to like find your tribe and all that other stuff. But it is worth it, right? And I do feel that on this card, that this is saying it might not be easy, but it will be worth it for you to do this. So I think finding your tribe, finding your people, all that would be very good with the Three of Cups. With the Chariot, you have the Six of Cups. Six of Cups can be several things. It can represent innocence and nostalgia. It is weird. I don't know why this is coming up so much, because we're past the retrograde, the Mercury retrograde. Saturn and Neptune are retrograding. Maybe that's why, but it just seems like people are in a little bit of a nostalgic energy right now. Like literally right now. Today is August 14th, and this video will be published on the 15th. So you might be feeling this, this week early. But like, is it bad? No, I don't think it's all bad. I think that it will only be a challenge for you if you're staying stuck in nostalgia, right? The other thing is that I'm getting here is like getting stuck in a disappointment. I don't feel this is bad, but I do feel like it's saying, how many times does something have to disappoint you, right? And with the Eight of Cups. So if you walk away from something, they're, basically saying, don't go back, whatever it is you're walking away from, because, maybe something has disappointed you too many times. Again, this is a good reading. But I read intuitively, and I just give the messages I get. So that's kind of what's popping into my head here, even though this isn't always a bad card. And as a matter of fact, number one, you have 2 6s right here. If you've been watching me for a while, I love 2 6s, because, 2 6s kind of says you're on the right path, you're going in the right direction, you're doing the right things that you need to be doing to find success at this time. So, that's pretty good. The other thing that I would say is that the Six of Cups can be kind of like a turnaround. It can be a gift from the universe. And usually the gift we receive from the Six of Cups is obstacles being removed from our path. So we can, experience some sort of obstacle that gets removed. With the Hangman, you have the Four Wands. 4 Wands can be marriage. Again, definitely could be, you could be meeting someone. We have the Two of Cups right here. You have the 4 Wands twice. So could be love. The other thing I would say is, like, what will set you free? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you, but 8 of Cups, 4 Wands, it's like that might, yes, I think that there can be things in life that do make us sad, but it sets us free at the same time, right? It's like you can love a person, for example, in a relationship, but you can also know that they're not right for you long term, and that it can make you sad to walk away, but sometimes we have to, right? And it's like I'm not saying you're walking away from a person. I'm just giving you that example. Is that it looks to me like you could be walking away from something, and I think that it will be worth it. Next, in the area of messages from your future self, you have this Pisces card. It says boundaries on it. It says set and honor boundaries to avoid being taken advantage of. Yes, your first card is the Nine of Wands, boundaries. You have this divine intervention card. It says angels are working behind the scenes to assist in the miracles you've requested. Yep, definitely could be attracting some luck or miracles at this time. We said this at the beginning of the reading. But again, this is boundaries. That's the other thing about the Eight of Cups. Is he knows that if that he doesn't know if he's going to find fulfillment. Some readers say that he is walking towards the Nine of Cups. He doesn't know that. He just knows that this situation isn't right? So he's choosing not to settle. And because of that, that's how we attract good things. Again, when we stay in situations that aren't right, we're basically telling the universe, I'm willing to settle. And the universe is like, well, this is what they want. So you're just going to get more of whatever that is, right? When we decide to stick up for ourselves and walk away from things we know aren't right, even though we don't know if we're going to find something better or not, that's when we get good things. And, you start with the Nine of Wands, Ace of Wands, Six of Swords. Nine of Wands is about putting up those boundaries. Nine of Wands is the Wounded Warrior. Nine of Wands is my card of, throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. I don't really feel this for you, Sagittarius, but I will say, I do feel like I should say it, that it is a great time for innovation. But, really what I feel for you is that you are putting up boundaries against things that aren't right for you. And you're deciding to, not let those things into your life, plain and simple. He's learned a lesson a lot of times. He has these 8 wands behind him, and he's holding on to this 1 wand. I do kind of get that feeling for you from this reading. It's like I said earlier, how many times does something have to disappoint you? Not really a big deal, but a little bit of a warning. I would pay attention, especially if something is reminding you of something in the past. You have the Ace of Wands. One thing I will say is if you have been stuck, you have the Hermit, you have the Six of Swords. Hermit, his feet are frozen at the top of that mountain. Six of Swords, I'll show you. This guy here has this wand, basically, that he's using to push this boat across the water. But the Six of Swords can represent like a little bit of stuck in the mud type of energy. But it's almost like this right here is the thing that is going to move you forward. So again, with Uranus and Gemini, I know I say it every time, but it is important that, you pay attention to those like electric ideas, those random ideas that pop up into your head, out of nowhere. Those are going to be the things that make you very successful. You have the Six of Swords. Six of Swords is moving on to calmer shores, so definitely could be a lot of improvements coming in for you at this time. I also feel like we are in a time where we need to look for improvements. Again, the challenge I tell people with Saturn and Aries, and even though Saturn is going to retrograde back into Pisces soon enough, the challenge is it's like the universe isn't going to really just give us anything, right? It's like we're not going to just magically necessarily discover, although you could, because of that Uranus and Gemini energy, you have that Ace of Wands. So, you could get some divine insights, or, you could download information literally. But for the most part, again, the people that are going to be successful moving forward is like, you shouldn't rely on that, right? If it happens, great. And again, you, out of all the signs except for Gemini, have the best opportunity to just download a random ass idea that could, set you free. But again, you shouldn't rely on it, right? You should be looking for improvements. You should be looking at things that are slow in your life and saying to yourself, how can I make this better? How can I, get this to grow? How can I remove these friction points in my life? All that. With the Nine of Wands, you have the Moon. The Moon, a reading like this kind of reminds me of the fear of never having something, which maybe some of you are feeling that or have been feeling that recently. And what I mean by that is, we all have certain things that we want in life, out of life, obviously. And, this kind of reminds me of getting to that point where you're saying oh, I guess I'm never going to have that. But the Moon says, no, you're just in a temporary period of time where you just don't know, you just haven't figured it out yet. And so the Moon is part of the Fool's journey. The Fool just has to keep moving forward. And eventually the sun will come up. And I think you need to realize that here, Sag, is that you're not stuck and, you can have what you want. With the Ace of Wands, you have the Two of Cups. This could be a person that captures your attention for sure. This type of energy is a person who stands out to you. It's like a person who's capturing your attention, or a person who's really, who's really captured your eye, So that's good. With the Six of Swords, you have the World. Definitely could be an achievement coming in for you. And, this right here, Chariot, World, Six of Swords, could be a move. So for any of you that are thinking about moving or traveling, this is very good. You have this card that says, don't let your past hold you back. You have this, luck is on your side. That is the entire reading. I didn't even see this card. Eight of Cups, don't let the past hold you back. Plain and simple. There's luck on your side. You need to keep pushing forward. There's no need to overcomplicate it. You have the Knight of Wands, the Two of Cups, and the Nine of Cups. The Knight of Wands is charging forward toward success and also going on adventure in the good stuff. I always say that this card always reminds me of you, Sagittarius, like you being adventurous, getting back to who you are, getting back to your adventurous self. I think all that would be really good for you. Like looking for adventure, basically. Looking for opportunities to go on adventures. That's what I would be doing with the Knight of Wands. I think that will help you the most. You have the Two of Cups. Again, Two of Cups can be like a perfect match coming in for you. So obviously, if you're looking for love, you have the card twice. Usually the Two of Cups starts with communication. We have the Staff of Hermes right here, which represents Mercury. And obviously Mercury represents communication. So definitely could be like a new person that you are communicating with if you're looking for love. And it looks like a perfect match if that's what you're looking for. So I do like to see that here, Sagittarius. The other thing I would be paying attention to is your inner guidance system. Two of Cups can be like you and your higher self. And so it can say that your higher self is like trying to communicate with you, which again, judgment is kind of the same. You have the Nine of Cups. So yes, I love that you start with the Eight of Cups and then go to the Nine of Cups, because the Eight of Cups does not necessarily mean that you are going to walk into fulfillment, right? The Eight of Cups, he is hoping. He has the hopes of a brighter future. He is hoping that he can encounter this right here, the Nine of Cups, right? What he truly wants. And so, again, I think you are, which is good. Again, as I always say, to me, tarot is action, right? We have to do things to make these things happen. It's just not going to magically happen for you. So Nine of Cups is about, getting into alignment with what you want. With the Knight of Wands, you have the Temperance card, you. Literally, I think this is just confirmation of what I said. I said that I felt like this is you showing up here. And, temperance can be patience, but I think you are getting something that you've been waiting for, but for the most part, I think it's just you showing up. Whenever you show up as yourself, it puts you in a position of power and strength. Yes, with the Two of Cups, you have the Knight of Cups. There you go. Definitely could be a knight in shining armor coming in for you. So for those of you that want love, prepare to be swept off your feet, is what I feel like saying with that Knight of Cups. You could be attracting a dreamer. I don't always feel this with the Knight of Cups, but sometimes I feel the Knight of Cups people can be dreamers. Again, not always a bad thing, especially if they take action on their dreams. Again, usually this is only a problem if they don't, because then it just seems like they're just talking, right? But if it's a person who at least tries, then, definitely could be a good person. With the Nine of Cups, you have the Two of Wands. Yeah, one thing I will say, especially once we get to next year, I think that all fire signs are definitely, like, if you want to make something happen, you have to make the decision and make it happen, right? Very cut and dry Saturn energy. That Saturn in Aries is going to require all fire signs, I believe, to be bold, assertive, like more. You are, because you're a fire sign, but more. And you have to be loud. You can't be quiet about things. You can't be delicate with things necessarily. It's not that you can't, but it just means, like, fortune favors the bold. That's, like, the best way I can put it. You have this shield that says you need to defend yourself. I don't. I think you just need to put up boundaries. That's it, I think, sometimes I think people hear defend yourself and they think, like, oh, I'm going to fight this person or whatever. No. I think this is more about putting up boundaries just in general, and that's what I would be doing. You have this purse that says pay attention to your finances. Yeah, between now and the end of the year, in the beginning of next year, I think we all do. I've been talking about this since 2016. I've been warning people about this. Neptune and Pisces. Neptune is going to retrograde back into Pisces. And I've been saying since like 2016, you can literally go to my live tab on my channel, go to the oldest lives. I used to talk about this all the time. Neptune and Pisces is going to change money. Something about money is going to change. We're already basically seeing it, right? So, something about money is changing. What does it look like? I have no freaking clue. Neptune is deception. I think that's something people also forget, especially in Pisces. It is very deceptive. That could be good. that could actually be bad. And you might be saying deception is a bad word, but it could be Neptune can expose deception. So again, maybe that's what happens with our money by the time we get to 2026, right? Maybe some things get exposed about it. The truths that everybody knows. So that's the other thing about Neptune and Pisces. It's like everybody knows the truth. Everybody knows the system is funny. They just print the money. They just print it. It's like it basically means nothing, right? Who are we in debt to, right? No one, really. They just put it into a computer. That's it. It doesn't even exist. So again, the deception, being exposed, right? But on a personal level, I don't think there's any reason to be paranoid or worried. We just need to pay attention. You have this frying pan. It says trouble, accusations. I would just ignore it. Again, we had Mercury go retrograde where Mars went retrograde last year. And so this is like classic Mars retrograde energy. Even though we don't still have Mars retrograde, that Mercury retrograde happened in the same part of the sky. You have this Caterpillar card that says, things will not always be this way. A change is coming. Yes, a big change. Judgment. Judgment is a big change. It is a whole new life. So, a lot of you could be going through a change. You have this cup. It says you should accept valid criticism. Sure, but overall, I think this is a good reading. I like where it's going. So thank you for being here, and definitely enjoy your week.